In the middle of rural Wisconsin, where winter swallows the roads and isolation becomes a kind of religion, there once stood a farmhouse that kept its secrets a little too well. Inside lived a mother who preached hellfire, a father who drowned in his drink, and two boys who grew up believing the outside world was wicked. From that house came Edward Theodore Gein, a quiet, awkward man whose name would later stain American folklore. But before the grave robbing, before the horror movies, there was a farmhouse in Wisconsin, a lonely man, a mother's voice, and a secret stitched together from nightmares. Before Norman Bates ever stabbed through the shower curtain, before Leatherface revved his chainsaw in Texas heat, and before Buffalo Bill whispered, "It puts the lotion on its skin." Ed Gein didn't just commit crimes, he changed horror itself. He inspired Psycho, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and Silence of the Lambs. He turned the ordinary into the unthinkable and made us realize that the real monsters might live next door. I'm your host, Monty Mader.
I'm Andy Jones.
And we're headed to Wisconsin to meet Ed Gein today on Highway to Hell. Hello and welcome back to Highway to Hell. We are back, full season 2. I just have a couple announcements. We had a whole bunch of new Hellions join us on Spotify and on Instagram, which we love. We're insanely excited about. So just 2 announcements before we jump in. We want to add like haunted personal stories or true crime stories, true crime encounters to the episodes. So as you listen, if you ever have a personal experience related to the topic or even a true crime story that maybe we haven't heard of yet, please send your stories to the email highway@montymader.com. We would love to have those entries, and if we decide to read them on the podcast, we will reach out to you, but we'd love to have that as a community. And second, please follow us on Instagram. It's at Highway to Hell Pod. We're going to be doing clips, pictures from the episodes, and some videos on modern true crime as it's happening right now. So please share, rate, and review the show as this helps us tremendously and really get season 2 off the ground. Really excited. Andy, now we're back after our showcase.
Absolutely.
And Halloween.
Showcase went great, too.
Showcase was so much fun.
God,
My
so
spirit
nervous.
needed that. I was so scared.
I was so nervous. I played like 10 billion shows, and then, we had to do 3 songs that we wrote. I'm like,
I know, what if they don't like it?
Yeah.
And you and I have played together for 4.5 years. I mean, we're doing shows every week. And then this 15-minute showcase of original music, I was in the corner panicking, like breathing into a paper bag.
It was the most stressful thing I've done involving music ever.
I was like, I don't know music.
Yeah,
and
I was so scared I was going to forget the stuff that I wrote.
Right.
It's just embarrassing.
And that was me too. Like I had my lyrics and you couldn't see it because of the way the logo was on the mic stand, but I had to have my lyrics there because I'm like, I know these lyrics because I wrote them. But I'm also really afraid I don't know these lyrics.
Yeah, exactly.
Because I was so nervous. Like my stomach was in knots, but it was really good.
Oh, yeah.
I can't wait to release those songs.
Oh, it's going to be a blast. And such a great turnout, too. Saw all our friends. I mean, it was just so great.
Yep. And it was a full night, too, especially on a Thursday. So we played what's called Whiskey Jam here in Nashville, which is a really popular original music showcase. And this was the first one they did where it was all alternative and rock music.
Right. I was going to say it's usually country music, kind of a showcase thing, but except this time.
Not this time. It was great. And I was really happy. So our friend who organized it, who's an audio engineer, Cody Stagg, I was so glad there was such a good turnout for him. He put so much work into that.
My God.
And as we were getting ready for this episode, I was telling you, after we did last week, and we briefly mentioned the Warrens, and I've always been on the stance with the Warrens where I've always believed they're like, at least 50% charlatan, right? Like you're
most of them,
exactly. Like
no
you're making this up,
anybody.
and like I'm immediately suspicious when like people capitalize off making themselves very religious.
Yeah,
like in such a very overt way.
And when opportunity presents itself, they always seem to be there.
Yes,
it's kind of like, this will be great.
It's like, you just happen to be in the neighborhood. But I was telling Andy, I get into a car. There's a podcast playing, and I hear it, and it's talking about the Conjuring universe. I'm like, I was just talking about the Warrens. It's at the part, I did not know this, that Ed Warren, was, it's known now, credibly accused of having a long-term affair with a 15-year-old girl that was a student on the bus he drove before he got famous as a demonologist.
Unbelievable. So was that like the 60s then or the 70s maybe? Something?
And the 15-year-old lived with them for a while.
What?
Got pregnant.
What?
And you can imagine what they coerced her to do, as the good Catholics they were. Yes. Catholics. And then, at first I was like, and in my brain I'm listening to this and being like, well, maybe after he became famous, maybe this was an accusation, right?
Of course.
Because I didn't know, the source didn't say whether this was something other people said or the girl said until later. Later they said it was a girl. I'm like, I believe her. But the kicker was that in their contract, Lorraine wrote in a clause that neither of them could be depicted having sexual relations with a minor.
Unbelievable.
Why would you do that? Like, that's incredibly specific.
Yeah, it's oddly specific.
Like, excuse me? And I'm like, man, it's every time.
No,
every time.
It's so rampant. It's so disgusting. And yeah, it's oddly specific. It's kind of like, the Ryder contract, green M&Ms only or something. Like that's oddly specific.
You're like, wow, you really put thought into that.
Yeah.
Like, it would be another thing if the clause, again, because they were so religious of like, you cannot depict them in sexual acts. That would make sense to me.
Sure, yeah.
From their branding standpoint. But to specifically say with minors.
Yeah, that's odd. That's really odd.
If you didn't like the Warrens to begin with, you now don't like them more.
Yeah, that's kind of a bummer.
Yeah.
That's actually very much a bummer, not kind of one. Sorry, I'm still waking up here. But
yeah, I was just surprised because I had never heard that. Again, always questioned their claims, but
100%.
I had never heard that.
No, that was news to me when you told me that. I'm like, oh,
and there's no reason for a non-familial 15-year-old girl to be living with you.
No.
There is
not at all.
No.
And they had kids, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's what I thought. I thought they had a daughter or something.
Yeah.
Sometimes I get the movies confused with real life.
Right.
It's not good.
I think they did. But yeah, so that was my little story I wanted to share with everyone because we talked about the Warrens last week.
Wild.
Ooh, so gross. Anyways.
Ick.
So let's talk about furniture made from skin. So much better. Weirdly more comforting. No, just kidding. All right. So what we're going to do today is we're going to jump into the story of Ed Gein and his background and his family. We're going to talk about how he transformed horror and talk about a haunted object associated with Ed Gein.
Dun, dun, dun. The cauldron of doom.
Dun, dun, dun. So the Geins were the kind of Midwestern family you might never notice. Poor, proud, and stubborn. George Gein was born in 1873 in Wisconsin to a family of farmers who never quite made ends meet. He was uneducated, easily frustrated, and by his 30s, already drinking heavily. Augusta Wilhelmine Gein, born 1878, came from a German Lutheran stock, hardworking, devout, convinced that morality was life's only currency. And from childhood, she'd been told that women should be pious and men should be strong. But Augusta saw most men as weak, lust-driven creatures. Correct. I'm just kidding. When she married George in 1900, she expected him to lead and said she got a man who drank, cursed, and couldn't hold down a job. She despised him and made sure her sons saw the contempt that she had for him every day.
Just a second here. It's funny she ends up with him when he's like the polar opposite of everything she was raised like in.
And the opposite of her.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it couldn't get further from that. But when I was doing some research also, it seemed like she was raised in old Lutheran. So it's like, even for those times, it was like, going way back. More,
very
I guess,
strict.
Old Testament kind of stuff, which we know how intense that stuff is and how forgiving it can be. And
At dinner, Augusta would pray loudly, asking God to deliver us from the wickedness of man, while George sat silent, red-faced, and beaten down. 2 boys were born into this tension, Henry in 1901 and Edward in 1906. George's temper and Augusta's constant control created an emotional battlefield. When George lost work at the tannery or grocery, Augusta berated him until he disappeared to the tavern. When he came home drunk, she quoted scripture until he hit the bottle again. She told her sons their father was damned, a man who lives for the flesh instead of the spirit, and then she told them that all other women, save herself, were worse. No friends, no playdates, no laughter. Augusta wanted purity, and she got isolation. And I honestly, there's traces of this that you see in the church where women, these pious or quote important women that are given these limited roles in the church hate other women the most.
Unbelievable.
And just they're a threat and they're all dirty and they're all, you were born a woman. So it's very like Maleficarum, the book.
Oh yeah, of course.
I totally forgot what the name was. But the Burn the Witch book, which essentially was just like, oh, women are evil because they were born. It's like, okay. All right, cool story, bro.
Yeah, that's accurate, right? Okay. I saw something interesting too. Actually, when her and George got married, she was 8 months pregnant.
Ooh, oh no.
Yeah, I can't have
projection.
that. Yeah,
projection.
Isn't it funny coming from her? I'm the best. I'm so holy. I'm also 8 months pregnant on my wedding day, but I'm still the best. You can't do it.
We talk about the Warrens, and then immediately Augusta comes in with
just what is.
It's like
unbelievable.
It's why like it's always so much hypocrisy and projection. Always. Like if you
ingredients.
If you really feel like you're happy with who you are and you're living in integrity and in alignment, you don't have the need to demonize other people.
No, not at all.
Like it's only people that are miserable and insecure.
Yep. Every time.
By 1914, Augusta decided the city was hopeless. She sold the small grocery store George had briefly run, calling it a house of temptation, and used the money to buy a 155-acre farm outside the tiny town of Plainfield. Plainfield was the kind of place where everyone knew everyone except the Geins. Geins. Why do I keep saying that? Except the Geins. Here we go. They kept to themselves. The farm sat miles from neighbors, surrounded by swamp and pine. To Augusta, isolation was salvation. To Ed, it was prison. She homeschooled the boys in scripture before letting them attend a one-room schoolhouse. Teachers remembered Ed as polite but peculiar, shy, prone to random fits of giggling, as if hearing voices only he could hear. When kids mocked him, he never fought back. He'd just smile and mutter, "Mom says they'll burn."
Ooh, I didn't know about that. Also, I believe he was mocked too because he had a droopy eye.
Yep.
He had some. It was either a droopy eye or there was some sort of growth on it.
Yeah. I think he had some kind of like almost palsy type symptom where his face kind of drooped. Every night after supper, Augusta gathered her sons and opened her Bible. She read from the Old Testament, of course.
I'm shocked.
Wars, plagues, damnation. Sex was a sin. Women were snares. Pleasure was the devil's bait. She sounds like a joy at parties. She spoke with conviction, and little Ed listened as if God himself had chosen her mouth to speak through. She'd tell him, "The world is filthy, Edward. Only through me will you stay clean." By adolescence, Ed's imagination had fused morality with violence. When animals were slaughtered, he felt both horror and fascination. He helped with butchering, learning anatomy before he ever learned empathy, and adored his mother's purity, feared her anger, and pitied his father's weakness. The toxic triangle shaped everything he felt about power, flesh, and guilt, and Augusta ruled with ritual precision. The boys woke up before dawn to milk cows and shovel snow, then read scripture before breakfast. No movies, no dances, no social gatherings. When Ed tried to make a friend at school, Augusta scolded him. "The boy's father drinks. His mother tempts men. You will not see him again," which is interesting coming from a woman who's married to an alcoholic.
Yeah.
So Ed retreated inward, reading adventure stories, anatomy books, and dime store westerns when he could sneak them. He imagined a world larger than the farm, but he never dared step into it. Henry, meanwhile, began questioning their mother's obsession. He wanted normalcy, even dated a local widow. Augusta called her a Jezebel.
Not only was she a local widow, she had 2 kids and lived in town.
Scandal. For the streets. For the streets. It's incel culture.
It's what?
It's incel culture.
Oh, incel, yes.
Circa 1930s.
Unbelievable. This is like the birth of it, probably.
Right, exactly.
Augusta Gein.
It's like, I'm a real boy. Gein. Listen, and I'll tell you why I keep saying Gein. Because right before we started recording, we were doing Arnold voices.
Don't blame me.
It was your fault.
This has nothing.
The outrage. But now
you need to read from your Bible.
I got to get the gains, right? And so now I'm saying gains instead of Gein. Gein. By the late 1930s, George's health and will were gone. Years of alcohol abuse left him coughing blood. The boys supported the household doing odd jobs while Augusta continued her sermons. In 1940, George collapsed and died of heart failure. No one in town came to the funeral. Augusta said coldly, "He's better off now." For most families, a father's death is a tragedy. For Augusta, it was liberation, complete control over her sons at last. And in May of 1944, a brush fire broke out while Ed and Henry were cleaning fields. When the flames spread, the volunteer fire department rushed to help. By nightfall, Henry was missing. Ed led rescuers directly to his brother's body, lying face down, bruised, and unburned. The coroner ruled accidental asphyxiation, but locals whispered.
Yeah, no, that's totally bizarre. I mean, he can just lead them right to his brother's body. But also at this point, too, because of Henry dating the Jezebel from town with the 2 kids that I'm sure his mother loved, he also began kind of questioning her and actually questioning Ed's relationship with her, kind of going like, this isn't right, guy.
This is weird. It's very incestuous.
Exactly. So they were... there's no proof that Ed did it, but let's just be honest, he did it.
Well, and he wasn't burned.
Right.
Like there was no reason. They were outdoors. There's no reason he shouldn't have been able to get to a clear area. He was with Ed when the fire started. So my thing is, and again, he's face down, he's bruised. I think Ed attacked him.
Absolutely.
And then he did die from asphyxiation, but I think he inhaled smoke because he couldn't run away.
Probably. I could totally see that. And it just, Ed was upset. that he was questioning his relationship with Mother.
But there also is kind of this like undertow as well of like, did Augusta put Ed up to it? Did she have something to do with it? Because then it says, so Plainfield didn't investigate this, but after the funeral, Augusta wept for weeks, but Ed noticed something strange. She cried not for Henry, but for the sin she believed had taken him. He spoke out against me, she told Ed, and God has punished him for it.
Oh, wow. Yes. Yeah, there's definitely an implication there.
That somebody did something.
Yeah, I don't, part of me just says it was probably all Ed.
Yeah.
You know, he's so attached to his mother at this point.
And it's a trauma bond.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, and he clearly, even from childhood, like, was not mentally all there.
No, definitely not.
And as he gets older, we see that devolves further. So within a year of Henry's death, Augusta suffered a stroke. Ed nursed her obsessively, cooking, cleaning, praying beside her bed. He massaged her hands, read her scripture, begged her to never leave him. When she recovered slightly, she remained bitter and frail. She railed about their neighbors, particularly one woman who ran a boarding house and had lost her husband. Augusta called her the whore of Babylon.
Nice.
That's gangsta.
Nice.
Dude, is there a band name called the whore of Babylon?
I'd be shocked if there's not some Norwegian black metal band.
That's a missed opportunity if not. One day, Ed took her to see that woman's dog. The woman's boyfriend was there, and Augusta witnessed them showing affection. She flew into hysterics, screaming all the way home. Days later, she suffered another stroke. Fatal. Sorry, that's not funny, but it kind of is. She freaks out because this woman has a boyfriend and gives herself a stroke. Sorry.
It's not funny.
Get it together.
It's not funny. Why
Days
are we
later,
laughing?
she suffered another stroke. Fatal this time. Ed was 40, but emotionally still a child. He said later, when she died, I lost my only friend, my one true love.
So one thing I saw also is that when she came back from her, I guess the hospital from her first stroke, she noticed Ed had started reading some peculiar books on grave robbing, human anatomy, and actually a book on how to shrink heads. And she expressed her concern to him, saying it was probably the one good thing she ever did. She went up and said, "You shouldn't be looking at this stuff. What is this? You know, what are you doing?"
And where did he get it?
I don't know.
They live in the middle of a farm. Where did he get it?
Who knows? I'm sure they had, you know, and some of that stuff, like when I think of grave robbing, it could have been like maybe a pulp magazine too at the time. You know, I don't know exactly, but that's what I had come across.
Well, I imagine that she probably would have deemed like anything like Edgar Allan Poe or anything like that to be like demonic or somehow, you know, so maybe some of it was misconstrued that way because it was just dark literature.
Yeah, probably.
But after the funeral, Ed sealed Augusta's rooms, the parlor, the upstairs bedroom, the sitting room, untouched and immaculate. He moved into a corner of the house near the kitchen, surrounded by garbage and grime, but he never let dust touch her Bible. He lived alone, subsisting on odd jobs. Neighbors thought him odd but harmless, the kind of man who helped repair roofs or babysit kids.
Yeah, that
freaks me out.
That was actually one thing that him and his brother in town, they were actually really well-liked people. The townspeople thought they were a little odd, but like, Ed got along great with kids.
Yep.
You know, he could probably relate more to him. Yeah,
which
exactly.
Which is so weird because you think about that in the context of, I mean, even what we were just talking about with Ed Warren, having a man, even a young man, babysit children. Most people would not be comfortable with that now.
Yeah, probably a little bit of a different time. And probably when they talked to him, you know, he probably came off a little slow maybe. And he's a nice guy.
And they describe him as being very childlike.
Yeah, so you might see him as like somebody who's a little special, right? You know, and he'll be fine. You know, he gets along great with the kids. It'll be good. You know, I could see it at the time. Now, you know, that's totally, wouldn't happen.
Yet the house became a tomb for Ed. He clipped obituaries, attended funerals, and started visiting the cemetery after dark. Each visit brought him closer to his mother again, or at least to what remained of her in his mind. Experts would later say that Ed suffered from schizotypal delusions and sexual repression bordering on psychosis, but those labels came decades too late. His childhood had trained him to see flesh as filthy, desire as sin, death as purification. Alone in that farmhouse, he began stitching those ideas together, literally. And the man who would one day horrify the nation didn't appear out of nowhere. He was sculpted by fear, by faith, and by a mother who mistook domination for devotion.
Absolutely. And also after Augusta had passed away, you know, the house really starts devolving and he begins living in squalor. I mean, you have to think about it. It was a big farm. One guy can't run all that. So it starts devolving. He also starts reading again. He starts reading crime magazines. Again, where does he get?
Getting really obsessive.
Cannibalism, books on cannibalism, and books, Nazi death camp books.
Of course.
Yeah, about the Holocaust, which was real fresh.
Yeah, like just
at this
happened.
time, I mean, it was, this is probably.
This is late 40s.
Yeah, so it
late
literally
40s.
just happened.
Yeah. Yeah, because Augusta died in 1945, so she died the year the war ended.
Mm-hmm. So it was probably, over the next year, let's say, is when he started reading this stuff.
By the mid-1950s, the Gein farmhouse on the edge of Plainfield, Wisconsin looked abandoned. Windows dark, roof sagging, the smell of rot drifting in the fields, but inside one man lived alone among ghosts. Ed Gein, the quiet handyman who once babysat neighborhood kids, helped mend fences, was nursing a secret world, the world stitched together from bones and skin, born out of grief and obsession. After Augusta's death in 1945, Ed had kept to himself. He sold off pieces of his land, took odd jobs, drifted around town in his beat-up Ford truck. He was polite and soft-spoken. People teased him, but they also hired him, and they thought he was harmless. Kids liked him, adults pitied him. But by 1954, locals began to notice strange things. Empty graves, missing body parts, whispered about at the tavern, and small town folk don't go looking for monsters. They pray the rumors away. Mary Hogan owned a tavern in town, bold, brash, everything Augusta had once warned Ed about. She swore like a sailor, laughed out loud, the horror, called Ed her funny little customer. On December 8th, 1954, she vanished. Bloodstains on the tavern floor, a spent bullet casing, and a trail leading to nothing. People joked about it afterwards. When Ed made an offhand comment like, "Mary's not missing, she's at my house," folks just laughed.
She's hung up at my house.
Yeah.
It was his line. And they're like, "Oh, Ed."
Yeah, they're like,
that's an odd thing to say.
He was just odd Ed, always saying strange things, but he wasn't joking. Later, investigators would find Mary Hogan's remains inside the Gein farmhouse, proving that his transformation from grave robber, which is where he started, to murderer had already begun. So we go from Ed visiting cemeteries at night, mostly 3 local graveyards. Reading these obituaries, he'd find women who reminded him of his mother, dig them up just days after their burial. Sometimes he claimed he'd come to his senses before taking the body out. Other times he didn't stop. He brought home skulls, organs, and skin. He taught himself to tan hides, to preserve flesh, and fashion keepsakes. Oh God, like the nipple belt. In his mind, this wasn't desecration. It was resurrection. He believed he could rebuild his mother piece by piece and keep her spirit close. He later told investigators, "When I looked at the graves, I felt like I could talk to them, like they could come back." Psychologists would call it necrophilic fantasy and psychosis.
There was also, at this time when he initially started grave robbing, is when he started building the woman's suit.
Yep.
And a lot of people, the theory through the years has, for some reason, come up that he wanted to be a woman. I don't really buy into
I think he was trying to rebuild his mom.
Yeah, I do too. And that's where the grave robbing had initially began. He would take breasts, nipples, genitals, things like that, and start stitching it together.
And I think that some people's theory about that comes from Silence of the Lambs because of how they portrayed Bill.
Sure, yeah, I
where they
totally
get that,
see
where
that.
he's literally making a suit for him to wear.
Mm-hmm. And people said that, again, I don't know if they maybe had seen him, but that he would wear it at night and walk around the farm.
Oh my God, that's so gross.
Yeah, and he would walk around at night pretending to be his mother.
Yeah, I'm not queasy, but like that.
Yeah, it's pretty bizarre.
Yeah. When deputies finally entered the Gein farmhouse in 1957, their flashlights cut through gloom and revealed the stuff of nightmares. The kitchen walls were lined with bowls made from human skulls, a chair carefully upholstered in human skin, a wastebasket stitched from flesh, a belt made of nipples, masks wrapped from faces, dried and painted, hung on the walls like trophies. They found a box filled with noses, another with lips. The refrigerator held organs, and in the bedroom, lampshades stretched tight over bone-white frames. Every object was handmade, functional, and grotesquely artistic. Ed Gein wasn't killing for pleasure. He was building a world that was a distorted echo of his mother.
So, and how they ended up finding his house. His second victim, Bernice Warden, she owned a store. Yeah. Much like his mother. And I believe also Mary Hogan reminded him of his mother also. Both business owners. Augusta had owned it was a grocery store or a slaughterhouse
she
or something.
She had a tannery and then they had a grocery.
Right. Okay, so, excuse me, he sees these 2 women that remind him of mother. So what ended up happening, he goes into Bernice Warden's store and he asks her about antifreeze. And nothing happens. The next day, a lot of the men were out of town. I think it was hunting season. They come back. They notice the store is locked up and the company truck is gone. They find it, okay, why is her store closed? Where's Bernice? They notify the police. They get into the store. They notice blood on the floor. And so they're like, what's going on? They find the last receipt, and it was Ed's for the antifreeze, and that led them to the house.
Straight to his farmhouse.
Exactly. And evidently when the main leading officer walked in, he bumped into a human woman's body, strung upside down, gutted like a deer with a missing head.
Yep.
So that might have been Bernice Warden or Mary Hogan.
Oh man. Like I can't and I do think that there was because of the difficulty of the time, like we're talking about, people that lived through the Great Depression, they lived through World War II.
Oh yeah.
You've been through some tough shit. You're made
Absolutely.
of tough stock. But I can't imagine that anybody who walked into that house wasn't completely altered after seeing that.
Actually, the leading sheriff was so altered by it, he died of a heart attack before Ed's trial.
Oh my God. I didn't see that.
Yeah, he basically he was never the same after it. And also he after Ed's confession or giving his testimony, the sheriff got so irate that he actually grabbed Ed and slammed him into a wall. And what ended up happening is it made Ed's confession inadmissible because the police officer attacked him.
Oh my God.
Yeah, and he the leading officer was never the same after that. And like I said, he had actually died of a heart attack before Ed's trial.
And psychiatrists later diagnosed Ed with schizophrenia and severe psychosexual disorder, like not surprising growing up how he did. He lived in a reality shaped by two forces, the fear of women and the longing for his mother. Augusta had convinced him that the female body was sinful, but after her death, that same body became the vessel of his obsession. In his fractured mind, wearing her skin was a way to escape loneliness. It was a way for her to come back to life. Dr. George Arndt, one of his examiners, said he was both murderer and mourner, a man trying to resurrect the only person who ever mattered. The house wasn't as much a crime scene as it was a shrine.
Yeah, I could totally see that. When we think of different serial killers and things like that, not trying to minimize what he's done, but compared to some of the other ones, he's not really as bad as some of the others in terms of let's call it a body count. He killed two women. Horrible. I'm not trying to minimize it. Don't at me with that, people. It's horrible.
But he's also schizophrenic.
Yeah.
And actually insane.
Yeah.
It's not a Green River killer who is going out and he is calculated and he's doing it over and over and over and getting joy out of it. Ed is out of his fucking mind, demented, but completely insane as well. And
Absolutely.
and clearly does not have a hold on reality. And in 1958, Ed Gein was declared legally insane and committed to Central State Hospital for the criminally insane. He would spend the rest of his life under psychiatric supervision. At trial, his demeanor shocked observers. He was polite, smiling, asking about the weather. When reporters shouted questions, he told one woman, "I like your purse. Mine's homemade." He was found incompetent to stand trial until 1968, when he was briefly deemed fit, convicted of first-degree murder, and promptly committed due to insanity. He died in 1984 at 78 years old of respiratory failure, the same age his mother might have lived to if she hadn't filled their house with fear.
Yeah, and also in 1958, the Gein house burned down mysteriously. They don't know what caused it. Somebody in the town probably did it. Too many people kind of kicking around looking at it. Yep. He was also a model patient at the mental hospital.
Yep.
Nice guy, but people did say that when it was a full moon, they'd look at him, he would be in some kind of trance.
Yeah, just
so
not there.
About. Yeah.
Well, and it's also I'm not surprised at all because, again, another thing that we see, and you see this on a spectrum, right? When you have this huge suppression and repression of sexual urges, and you instill that in people react differently.
Absolutely.
Some people will, you see this we always joked in church because it seemed like the girls would go one way or the other. Either they would become really promiscuous and clearly insecure about it, or they would be so pent up they couldn't have a functional relationship and they couldn't have healthy sex even after they were married.
That's so true.
Because you create this dysfunction by making it this evil, taboo, horrific thing. And Augusta was so, and again, she's projecting her guilt.
On that.
Well, she's projecting her guilt. She was pregnant when she got married.
Yeah.
She
8 months pregnant.
8 months, she was alone. Alone.
Waddling out there a little bit.
People could tell. So she's projecting her guilt onto her son who's mentally unwell. And so, of course, that's going to become this weird, fetishized. She also very much sexualized her relationship with him.
Yeah.
To where I'm the only woman you'll ever love. And I don't think her issue with Henry was necessarily the widow. Her issue was that he was dating.
Yeah, he was breaking the number one rule,
which was to worship her.
Exactly. But and the whole interesting thing with this, we always talk about Ed for obvious reasons, but it seemed like Henry was okay.
Henry seemed relatively normal.
If we look at the history of it all. But for some reason, but again, it goes back to people respond differently, to certain stressors and
And of course,
Things like that.
this is like, you look at like the list of things that he had made from human bodies. Like, of course, this explodes across America. And this case really transformed horror and what became the genre.
At this point, to my knowledge, I don't think there'd ever been a case really like this in the country. I take that back, maybe on this scale, because now news is able to travel faster. Because, before you had people like H.H. Holmes Albert Fish, which,
we're going to do an episode on Albert Fish.
Because that is some...
Holy shit.
That's just some of the most despicable stuff ever. He's
just deranged.
Just a monster.
Think, for those of you who don't know who Albert Fish is, don't Google it. Wait till we do the episode.
Exactly.
But think of the worst, like, deviant, awful, disgusting human being you can think of, and then times it by about 1,000. And you'll be in the ballpark for Albert Fish.
Yeah, he's horrendous.
But I think maybe he's got to be, if he's not number one, he's top 3 as far as people that I'm aware of in the true crime
he's got to be number one.
He's just so, it makes my stomach hurt. People are now going to be like, I have to Google.
Yeah.
Don't
Google.
We'll record it. We'll do
We'll
Albert
know
Fish.
You'll do it.
We will know. We'll show up at your house.
We have connections.
We'll record Albert Fish next week. We have to now.
We've talked about him too much.
The shift from horror too, because like 1950s, we're doing vampires, mummies, aliens from outer space, like these make-believe monsters. The suburbs are safe, and then Ed Gein shows up. The photos are published.
Yeah,
and the monster that is a human being living in this farmhouse is way worse than anything they've seen on screen up to that point.
And he's a pretty normal looking guy, somewhat average, quiet, meek, mild, at that time in horror,
not someone who
it's
strikes
not,
you as a predator.
Right, exactly. You'd see him, there's Weird Ed, he's okay, he's a nice guy, and then don't walk into his house, And
then a few years after that, an author named Robert Bloch? I forgot to look up his pronunciation. He was living 35 miles from Plainfield, heard about the case. He imagined a quiet young man dominated by his dead mother, running a lonely roadside motel. His 1959 novel, Psycho, wasn't a direct retelling, but the DNA of Ed Gein runs through every single page.
And then, of course, that book gets turned into the Hitchcock movie, Talk, in 1960, which is Psycho. And that's where I think a lot of people inadvertently learned kind of the Ed Gein character. Yeah. Even though Norman Bates isn't exactly,
it's
100%
clearly
Ed Gein,
based
but
upon.
yeah, like the whole, well, if you haven't seen Psycho, I don't want to ruin anything, but I'm sure everybody here watching has seen Psycho, but how he would dress up like Mother, kind of, talk to himself, the house in the back. It's creepy. Ed Gein written all over it.
And then filmmaker Tobe Hooper in 1974 he grew up hearing the stories about Gein, wanted to capture that raw, decaying dread, like the fear of this person. He took the idea of the human furniture, flesh masks, rural isolation, and gave the world
Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
There it is. Leatherface.
Which is not really anywhere close to the Ed Gein story besides the furniture.
Yeah.
Ed didn't use a chainsaw. He didn't, there wasn't a whole family that did it. When you see Texas Chainsaw, it says inspired by a true story, and it's very loosely inspired by Ed Gein. There's a lot of liberties taken, but that's the way it happens.
But it's compelling.
Oh, yeah.
And it's interesting, too. I was talking to someone recently because we talked about this last episode where I came into horror so much later in life.
Yeah.
And so I really dove into the newer horror before seeing any of the classics. And I'll say, and this person got really mad at me, but I was like, the classics don't resonate with me the way newer horror does. Like, putting, Psycho or Texas Chainsaw Massacre up against like Hereditary.
Yeah, and I get it.
I am a big fan of psychological thrillers. Like that's my thing. Like I want my brain to be like, what the fuck?
If I had a brain, I'd want the same thing too. But
if I only had a brain.
Yeah, but no, I get it. It's when you look at Texas Chainsaw. We're looking at it here in 1974. That's what, is that 51 years ago now?
Yeah.
Jeez. Getting old, but the I will say Texas Chainsaw holds up. It feels gritty, it's grimy.
Yeah, and some of it's technology too, like just the difference in what we have in technology and what we can do now.
Absolutely. Yeah, comparing anything to Hereditary or like that we just rewatched The Witch on Halloween. You ever seen The Witch, right? Dude.
Creepy.
Oh my God, really unsettling, right?
Creepy.
But yeah, a lot of the classics can't really contend with the newer films just because of the technological barrier. But to me, it's like you don't necessarily need the technology. I mean, there's a lot of new movies that suck.
That's true.
Come on, people, right? I mean, a lot of, especially what you have to pay for tickets. I mean, come on.
Yeah. A lot of them are. I did go see for Halloween. I got dressed up as the bride from Creature Commandos.
Yeah, that was cool. You sent that picture.
And I saw Sinners in IMAX.
Yeah,
I love. See that. You haven't seen it?
No,
It's really good. No, it's really good, and it was great to watch it in IMAX.
There was a couple times I could have seen it, but my girlfriend's like, "I'll kill you."
It's like, if you watch it without me. But I will say, I think that the horror really shifts. So 1991, Silence of the Lambs.
Yeah,
there's a huge shift there, and I think that Buffalo Bill is much more like personality-wise in alignment with who Ed Gein was. We still have the carryover of like he's literally making a skin suit out of women that he wears.
Yeah.
It's a different motivation for Bill.
Yeah, and that's one thing in Psycho. Norman Bates didn't make a skin suit. I mean, he would just dress up.
Wore the clothes, yeah.
And his mother was in the attic of the old house out back behind the Bates Motel.
And I remember watching Silence of the Lambs. I was not supposed to watch it, but I watched it at a friend's house when I was 10. And like when I tell you, I was behind the couch, like crying and freaking out. We didn't finish it. Of course not. My friend and I were too scared.
Oh my God.
And so I didn't end up actually watching it until I was like 16, 17.
A few years later.
Yeah. Give it some time. Again, I remember when I was 5, I was scared by Jumanji. That was too much for me.
When were you afraid, like the fear of John Travolta happened?
Oh my God.
That's what I'm wondering.
I do have it. What is the
Is it Face Off?
It's Face Off.
Oh my God. I meant to tell you real quick. At that the show at Exodus that I played with Sidewinder and doing the Guillotine's final show, Whit Hamilton had shorts.
Oh God.
That was the cover of Face Off.
Oh no. That is really uncomfortable. That makes my skin itch.
Whit had shorts.
Whit is a mountain of a man.
He's the legend.
He's a legend. He's a true hero, true Nashville hero. But
American hero.
It was one of those things too where, I mean, I think I was, what year did Face Off come out?
It had to be the 90s.
It was in the 90s. Can you Google that for me?
Yeah.
But I was 6 or 7, I think, when I saw Face Off. Like my dad let me watch it with my siblings or something. And John Travolta is really creepy in that movie.
It's 1997.
So I would have been 7.
I was 30.
7-ish? 7? No. I would have been 5. I don't know. 5. So he's so scary in that show. And like I would literally have nightmares about John Travolta. And so I developed this, and I still don't like John Travolta. I still don't like it. I didn't watch Pulp Fiction until I was in my late 20s because I didn't want to see any movies with John Travolta. I didn't see Grease until my early 20s because I did not want to see John Travolta. And it is a hatred I have carried with me my entire life.
He lives in my hometown.
Does he really?
Yeah.
That tracks that he would be a Florida man.
Yeah, absolutely.
Really?
Yeah, he lives in my home. Or Why? He did. I don't know if he still, I mean, he lived there for many, many years.
Why? Yeah, it would have been 5. Why was my dad letting me watch that at 5?
I don't know. Well, I probably said this in the last episode. My mom would show me stuff to try and scare me. I don't know what was wrong with my parents, man. I'm going to traumatize him.
Oh my
He'll be well adjusted. Yeah, so well adjusted, I'd think of making music a career.
Well, and Gein later, he becomes like, we follow like true crime and horror, and it kind of gets blurred in Helter Skelter, Henry, the Portrait of a Serial Killer, Dahmer, Mindhunter, a lot of the recent stuff that has come out. I mean, the documentary about Ed Gein that just came out, the docuseries.
Yeah, Monster.
Yep.
Which is Ryan Murphy, who's done a few other things.
Yep.
But Henry, Portrait of a Serial Killer, because that's about Henry Lee Lucas, though, correct? Okay.
But it's kind of this like Ed Gein's legacy, you know what I mean?
Fair enough, yeah. Okay, I see what you're saying.
Of like documenting this and like turning it into both fiction and real life.
Yes.
And, you know, we talk about like, we have the BSU founded in Mindhunter, which I wish they would bring back another season. I am still deeply upset.
Aren't they? I thought I saw something was announced about a new season of that.
Are they? They should.
I think
they
so.
should. That would be great. And we also see that, like, you know, we have this curiosity that kind of blew. And granted, like, humans have always been interested in the macabre, right? Like, we used to take our families to gladiator shows or to public hangings. Can you imagine just packing the kids up with a little
Fun
picnic?
Sunday.
Oh, we're going to go watch the guy get hung in the square today. So we've always been like this, but now we just have a different medium. And one of the things that I looked into when I was putting my notes together is like, why do we love monsters? Like, why is it that we can't look away? Like that one of the biggest genres in the world consistently is true crime and horror. What do you think those reasons are that people just can't get enough?
We like the unknown.
Yeah.
We there's something more appealing about the dark than the light. I mean, nothing against lighter things, I but for me, I've always been more interested in, the darker aspects of it. Was just always more interesting. The lighter stuff just seemed kind of square.
Yeah.
Or like, oh, it's cheesy. Or,
well, and I also think that like you can face darkness in one of two ways. You can either pretend that it's not there, or you can acknowledge it and try to explore it. And I think that's where some of that comes from, is like, I know that this is there. I know that life is not sunshine and rainbows. And so since I know that, I'm going to lean in and touch it and see what it looks like. And the psychologist talked about 3 forces that cause us to obsess over true crime and horror. One is fear control. Watching horror or true crime lets us experience danger safely. 2 is empathy and pattern seeking. We're trying to understand evil so that we can prevent it and explore it. And then 3 is catharsis, is this relief that we survived. We're not in danger. Or, oh, I'm so glad it's not happening to me.
And upon hearing those 3 points, I'd probably say I lean more towards the second one, especially when it comes to true crime, serial killers. People are like, Andy, why do you like all this stuff? And I think I'm more interested in understanding.
Yeah.
Why? Why did he do this? That's my main thing. Kind of going back to some of the media real quick that Ed Gein kind of inspired. We had talked about Norman Bates, Leatherface, Buffalo Bill. A couple ones that you might not be familiar with. Ezra Cobb from the 1974 movie Deranged, which I believe I need to see that, but I think it was a lost film for a long time. Bloody Face.
Oh, I didn't realize.
American Horror Story. They took a little bit of an aspect and put it in that. Speaking of Ryan Murphy, because he was obsessed with his mother, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Garland Green from Con Air, which is Steve Buscemi. He shows up in The Mask, which is kind of like a Hannibal Lecter, which again, but
it's a nod.
Right, it's a nod.
I love Steve Buscemi.
And then I'm not sure if people play video games. Big gamer here. If you ever played Outlast Whistleblower, Eddie Gluskin, he goes by the Groom, is inspired by Ed Gein. Now, I know you don't play video games.
I don't. I've played Donkey Kong once.
Sick. So basically, Eddie Gluskin, in Whistleblower is the DLC to the Outlast game, and you basically you're in an asylum that is doing human experiments, and you have to escape.
Oh.
And one of the more deranged ones is this guy who's obsessed with making you his wife.
Oh, weird.
And there's a table where he almost saws your thing off and stuff, but it's very Ed Gein inspired.
Oh, and I kind of wonder about
that game's terrifying, dude.
Ed Gein's insane asylum years. It's just like, what was going on there? Like, what?
He seemed pretty normal.
Yeah, and I imagine, can you imagine being an orderly and just being like, you're talking to this guy that just seems kind of like this big kid, and someone's like, yeah, he had a nipple belt.
Yeah.
In his house. And a box of lips.
Yeah.
Just lips.
A box of female genitalia. There was lips for a drawstring on a curtain. You probably look at it and go, did he really do that? If he seems just so normal. But again, some of these people can kind of really turn it off, or come off charming, Ted Bundy, Rodney Alcala.
I think in his case, it was more, he just came off as non-threatening.
Yeah.
He wasn't a charmer like Bundy was. He was just, you just didn't think he was a predator.
No, not at all.
And also and this is so morbid, but weirdly artistic. If he had had a different medium and some medication, could he have been a great artist?
Oh, he could have been making stuff for Hail Dark Aesthetics here in town.
Exactly. Yeah. Let's not use people from the graveyard. Let's maybe don't do that.
There's other means, Ed.
And I'm sure Augusta said art was the devil and anything other than reading scripture was sinful. And
if she didn't, I'd be shocked.
I'd be shocked.
I'd be like, you all right?
Our class act of projection.
And there have been a couple Ed Gein movies made, also thinking about media. There's a really bad one.
Oh, is it bad?
Is
it like Steven Seagal bad? On a scale of 1 to Steven Seagal?
First of all, Sifu Seagal is the greatest of all time. I don't want to hear this negativity or propaganda.
Quiet you.
But it's starring Kane Hodder. And when my girlfriend hears this, she's going to be cracking up. because it's so bad. It's Michael Berryman from Hills Have Eyes, and is in it for like 2 minutes, and it's not even accurate.
God.
But if you like bad horror movies like me, you'd like that one. And then there's another one too.
I should have asked on a scale of 1 to champagne and bullets.
Dude. Oh, well, this look, Champagne and Bullets. I mean,
if you haven't seen the movie Champagne and Bullets, don't Google Albert Fish. Go Google Champagne and Bullets.
Yeah.
Google the
please.
bathtub scene. You're welcome.
Oh God. Or the shimmy slide.
The shimmy slide.
I was gonna send you this, but I figured you had too much. It'd probably just upset you.
It's seriously one of the worst, just chaotic movies. I don't understand it. I don't understand what's happening.
Somebody did a video of the shimmy slide, did a 10-hour loop.
Oh my God.
I was gonna send it to you, but then I thought you'd attack me. But there's another Ed Gein movie. I'm looking it up real quick. I think
There's
it was
a 13-minute tub scene in that movie. Also the guy cast himself in it. The producer cast himself in it as the lead, and he cast this former Playboy bunny as his love interest while his girlfriend was also cast in the film. And he and the Playboy bunny have this awkward 13-minute bathtub scene.
That's Champagne and Bullets, not Ed Gein, by the way.
Yeah, that's Champagne and Bullets. That's what you can Google. Do not Google Albert Fish.
So there's actually a few Ed Gein movies. The one I'm thinking of though is called In the Light of the Moon. It's from 2000. And I heard that one was actually pretty decent. But the one with Kane Hodder, who famously played Jason Voorhees for many years,
yep,
did it. And actually, we met him at Full Moon.
Oh, did you really?
And I went and we were talking about it. And I said, we saw your Ed Gein movie, and he looked at me and goes, "You watched that?" And I'm like, "Yeah." Like all he's like, "You watched that movie I made?" I'm like, "Yeah." I also watched the BTK one that he did, which is super inaccurate. And he was mortified.
He was like, "No."
I was so proud I mortified him.
That's amazing.
It's like, why'd you do that?
That's amazing. And also,
really nice guy though.
Around the legends of Ed Gein is a haunted cauldron.
Oh,
now,
right, yes.
This is a true event. I kind of touched this up a little bit so it reads a little bit more like a story. But this is about the cauldron of Plainfield. For most, the quiet fields and pine forests of Plainfield are harmful enough. But when the wind rolls low and the fog settles thick, locals say you can still hear the faint creak of a chain and the echo of a shovel cutting through the frost-hardened earth. That's when they tell the story of Ed Gein's cauldron. The story begins in 1958, 1 year after Ed Gein was arrested. The town wanted to scrub him away, sell off what was left, tear down the farmhouse, and bury the memory. At the estate auction, people came out of morbid curiosity more than greed. They picked over everything, old farm tools, hunting gear, even a rusted refrigerator. But there in the corner of the yard sat a little cauldron. Black iron, belly deep, stained inside with something darker than soot. It was bought by a man named Hollis Brown, a farmer himself, quiet and practical. He didn't believe in hauntings. He just thought it'd make a good trough for feed. He loaded it up in his truck and drove off, leaving the whispers of the crowd behind. But that night, when Hollis poured water into it for his pigs, the water turned a strange reddish brown. He said it smelled like pennies and something burnt. His wife swore she saw steam rise even though the night was freezing cold. By the morning, one of their sows had died, jaw locked open, eyes glassy, as if it had seen something it couldn't understand.
Wow.
Hollis drained the cauldron and put it in his barn, but he said the animals refused to go near it ever again. And years later, when Hollis died unexpectedly, his heart just stopped. While he was working in the same barn, the cauldron was sold again. It passed from hand to hand, always quietly, always cheap. A man in Wausau bought it to melt it down to scrap metal, but before he could, his shop caught on fire. He survived, but the cauldron sat untouched among the ashes, not even blackened by the flames. Another owner claimed it made sounds at night, faint knocking from the inside, like someone trying to get out. He left it on the curb by morning. No one knows exactly how it made its way south, but by the time it reached Las Vegas, it had a reputation, the Cauldron of Plainfield. Zach Baggins, the paranormal collector, bought it for his museum. He said he wanted to preserve a piece of true horror history. But the museum guards tell another story, one they don't say on camera. They say the air around it is colder by at least 10 degrees. They say no one cleans near it after dark, and one janitor swore that when he looked into the cauldron just for a second, he saw his own reflection, only older, dead, and smiling.
Wow.
Now they keep the cauldron under glass, but locals from Plainfield say that was a mistake. They say objects like that don't want to be caged. Every October, visitors report seeing fog creeping through the exhibit hall, though the air vents are shut tight, cameras glitch, audio recordings pick up low moaning, and one night when a worker tried to move the cauldron to clean beneath it, the iron was warm to the touch as if something inside it was alive again.
Wow.
There's an old theory about haunted objects that energy clings to things the way fingerprints cling to glass. And maybe that's what happened here. Or maybe, just maybe, Ed never left Plainfield at all. Maybe part of him, the part that couldn't stop carving and cutting and boiling, stayed bound to the only tool that could hold his darkness, the cauldron. So if you ever visit the museum and see it sitting there, quiet, still, look close, but not too long, because some say if you stare into it for more than a few seconds, you'll hear a soft hum and the sound of a man singing to himself while he works. And when you turn away, you might just catch a flicker of movement behind you.
Wow. Yeah, and that's really interesting, too, because that kind of comes back to what we were talking about with Amityville, how energy stays.
Yep.
Yeah,
it's like an imprint
in the land or in objects or something. Wow, that's really, I wasn't familiar with that.
And
that's
especially
creepy.
if the cauldron was what he was used to like boil down bones and stuff. Like there's
Very possible.
There's a layer, because he lived in just the corner of the house.
Yep.
And this was the only tool that looks big enough for him to do what he was doing. Super creepy. But people dying, businesses burning down.
Very strange.
Very strange occurrences. I now want to go see the cauldron.
So with the cauldron, because I know his house burned down.
I think a lot of the stuff was sold
before.
Gotcha.
Okay,
is
that
my
makes
understanding.
sense.
And like they sold a lot of stuff from the barn because the barn was still standing.
And they probably
like
had a lot of farm stuff.
Yeah.
That yeah. Okay, that makes sense.
They had 155 acres to begin with.
Oy.
Yeah. Can you imagine? I just also more so now, like even a couple years ago, I would have been like, that's horseshit. None of that's real. The older I get, the more I study this stuff. I'm like, I just wouldn't take anything with me on the off chance that something weird happens. It's like I firmly believe that there's so much that science will explain in the future that we can't yet. I'm not taking chances. I also just don't want something associated with someone who did that in my house.
Yeah, I definitely have morbid curiosities and stuff like that. But
I would want to go to a
would,
museum and see it.
Yeah,
but 100%. I don't want it in my house.
I wouldn't want it in my house either. Like I think that brings about a certain energy.
Yeah,
to your
there's a darkness to it that like your house wouldn't feel safe. Anymore.
No, it would just feel very off to me. Again, I'd go see it in a museum, not look at it too long, evidently, but I'd like to go see it.
Yeah, exactly. Like, don't stare at it.
And that's a Zach Bagans museum in Vegas? Wow, interesting. That guy's got everything.
He's got everything. And then we're going to talk a little bit about, so this all takes place in Wisconsin. So I put together a little travel itinerary for my spooky guys and ghouls. And I love that Wisconsin is so associated with mysticism, paganism, and Wiccans. It's like a hub in the United States, a lot of earth-based spiritual communities. So Wisconsin is home to the Circle Sanctuary, which is one of the first legally recognized Wiccan churches in the United States. It was founded in 1974 in southwestern Wisconsin, and it was incorporated in 1978. The organization owns a 200-acre nature preserve. Wow. Dedicated to nature-based spirituality, ritual land work, and pagan gatherings. They have huge gatherings on like the solstices and stuff. I met one of the team leaders. I'll talk more about her
in a minute. They don't have a big wicker man, do they?
Right. It's like, don't do it. In Barneveld, Wisconsin, just west of Madison, there's a visible Wiccan pagan community that has existed for decades. A 2015 feature described an active congregation outside of the town. And Wisconsin's pagans have held large gatherings and festivals here. Again, Circle Sanctuary. And Wisconsin has been described as early as 1986 as a haven for paganism and witchcraft, with dozens of covens and hundreds of practitioners in Dane County alone. So the land owned by the Wicked Church being zoned for sacred use in rural Wisconsin is a super unusual U.S. zoning arrangement. So it's very rare in the United States. And it's interesting too, because Wisconsin also has a deep Catholic German immigrant rural,
right,
and also German Lutheran, which is what Augusta was part of. But it's just interesting now that they have this interesting culture.
She would have loved it.
She would have loved it. She would have loved it. And in Wisconsin, many pagans celebrate the Wheel of the Year, the 8 Sabbats, in forested or natural settings. Those are like Beltane, Samhain. Circle Sanctuary offers these rituals. And the population of pagans and Wiccans in Wisconsin has been estimated between 5,000 and 10,000 practitioners. So that doesn't include anyone else. And then one of the state's Wiccan leaders, Selena Fox, who I've met, who is delightful. She is so lovely.
You know everybody.
She's just a ball of joy. I met her at the Summit for Religious Freedom.
Okay.
She's amazing. And she's been active not just in spiritual circles, but in public advocacy, in national media, working for religious freedom for pagans, and hosting public rituals. So that's kind of just an interesting little history
that really is.
Of Wisconsin. And the reason I chose Madison is because Plainfield is not much to see, But if you wanted to go do a little Gein tour and you're in Wisconsin, Madison's the closest city. It's about 90 minutes away. And it's one of the most politically active cities in the U.S. It's called the Berkeley of the Midwest. It's been a site of major protests and movements, from the anti-Vietnam War demonstrations in the 60s to the 2011 labor protests at the Capitol. And the Wisconsin state capitol itself is an architectural gem modeled after the U.S. Capitol. The city revolves around the university, has huge live music and counterculture scene that goes all the way back to the 60s. Venues like the Barrymore, the Sylvie, the High Noon Saloon keep everything alive. And it was a hub for underground and college radio back in the day. So this is like very quirky, a lot of occult interest, pagan interest, and a lot of political activism.
You know, whenever you think of Wisconsin, you don't think of those things.
Right?
At least I didn't, you know.
Right.
That's really pretty fascinating that it's all kind of congregated up there. Interesting.
And they have one of the largest farmers markets in the country in Dane County. It's called the Dane County Farmers Market. It wraps around the entire capital every Saturday. Famous for, here we go, cheese curds.
Of course.
Craft beer and supper clubs.
Sign me up.
I would love some, I'm so hungry. I would love some cheese curds right now. That actually
That
would
does
just
sound
be
really good.
delightful. They have like a national mustard museum, which I don't know if you know this about me, but I really like mustard. I was like, well, I want to go.
Wait, hold on.
Wait.
They have a mustard museum?
They have a mustard museum. I worked it into the itinerary.
What is in the mustard museum?
Mustard. It's
Dumb
so
question,
much,
but how much
so
can
much
you...
mustard. Did you guys hear the laughter of God in the background?
Yeah. There he is.
That's Seeger in the back. All right, so I have a 3-day itinerary for Madison, Wisconsin. You're going to start grabbing coffee at Leopold's Book and Bar Cafe. Amazing. Anywhere with books, I'm in. If there's coffee and books, what? Marriage on
And
site.
mustard.
Yes, and mustard. You can walk around the downtown State Street Capitol area after going to Leopold's for your coffee. In the afternoon, there is a physics museum that is actually really, really nerdy. It's delightfully nerdy.
Sounds like it.
10 out of 10 recommend. And then you can go to Mimosa Books and Gifts. There's a lot of, what I love about towns like Madison is that there are so many bookshops, and they're like a book coffee shop. And then there's a book bar, and then there's a book metaphysical shop, and it's really amazing. And then they have one of my favorite restaurants there is Merchant. It's an industrial chic downtown spot. Really good cocktails. Like the food was decent, but the cocktails were top tier.
And they're probably kind of known for the drinks then.
Exactly. Okay. And then the High Noon Saloon, which, as you know, I'm not a huge fan of country anything.
I was gonna say, it sounds like a Nashville
All
bar.
Right. But they had a rock night that night, so it was pretty cool.
Wow, that's good.
And then the lake is so beautiful. Like, one of the things I forget about and I always remember this when I go to Chicago, is like how big those lakes really are.
Dude.
And so they have Lakeside Street Coffee House, which is right on the bay or the lake. So beautiful, great coffee. I think Leopold's is my favorite coffee, but Lakeside Street is incredible. The botanical gardens are amazing. And then, of course, a metaphysical shop, Cosmic Delights. And my favorite dinner was Bar Coralini, which is like handcrafted pasta, like from scratch. Ooh. Great cocktails, great wine. Kind of small, but very nice. And then there's Botanist Social. Botanist Social for late night cocktail.
Gein, not gain.
Gein. Late night cocktails. There we go. Got it. And then they also have the Afterlife Antiquities and Oddities. Like,
nice.
So weird. So speaking of Ed Gein, so the Afterlife Antiquities, like, you go in there and you can tell it comes from estate sales. So it's like stuffed animals that you're like, where did you get that?
Is it kind of like Hale then?
It's like Hale. So we have a store here in Nashville called Hale Aesthetics that is our witchy shop. And there's cool movie posters, but there's old medical equipment. And there's like a lot of witchy stuff. And in the back, they have all these taxidermied animals that have been bought from estate sales, including the head of a giraffe that you can buy for the low, low price of $11,499.
And don't touch it. The sign says, do not touch. They will yell at you.
You can buy a zebra rug if you want. My favorite ones, they have these ones where it's just the butt of raccoons and small animals that are taxed. It's terrible, but it's funny. And then there's a lot of art galleries. The Madison Museum of Contemporary Art, the Chazen Museum of Art, and then my favorite witchy stop was I'm going to mime just mouth mush today. Mouth mush.
Had that effect.
I can't get it right now. Alo Budra. There we go. Alo Budra Spiritual Apothecary. There was really cool stuff in there. Like, it felt like a really true, like, you walk into some metaphysical shops and you're like, oh, this is like people who practice work here. that was my favorite spot. But like all throughout town, it's actually super walkable and it's really, really artsy. It kind of gave me like Midwest Portland vibes, but a little less weird. But again, Portland's known for that. That's their thing.
I just never would have considered. This is Madison, correct?
Yeah.
Madison, Wisconsin. I just never would have considered that.
Yeah.
You know, like, that's my own ignorance, you know.
And then when you're there for a few days, you can drive an hour and a half and go see the original location of Ed Gein's farmhouse.
Right. And is there anything there like a
No, it's more of a landmark. It's more of a landmark, but Plainfield has like a small museum about it.
Interesting.
But Plainfield is still pretty small. I didn't look up how many people live in Plainfield.
You know, I didn't either. Can't be that many. I mean, it's called Plainfield.
Plainfield.
Can't be the bustling metropolis.
Oh, wow. The population was 924 in 2020.
I wonder what it was at that time.
Hang on.
We're through the looking
Let's
glass
look at 1954. Is not available. They didn't know.
That's not good.
They don't know.
There was probably 36.
The national population in 1954. Oh, it doesn't say. No, it doesn't seem like it was at least recorded at that point.
Maybe it really wasn't considered
it might have,
a town.
It might have just, not been considered a township and not counted in the census.
It's kind of like how Sleepy Hollow really wasn't a town, but it was a section of Terrytown up until the 90s.
Let's see if they have it in like 1960. 660 in 1960.
660. Wow.
That's tiny. That's like tiny town.
So you have to think there's probably a few, maybe a couple less than that in 54 is how we say.
Yeah. I would imagine it's probably around 600. Well, and growing up in Wyoming and South Dakota with towns like that, you have these teeny tiny little villages, which is like your post office. There's usually one cafe, some kind of store, general store. But then the population really exists outside of it.
Farms.
That drive in, yeah.
It's like when I went up to Illinois, to Dakota's hometown, we were doing a show up there. It was like the smallest town ever. There was a four-way stop, and there was like 3 bars. I'm like, this is wild, Yep.
I remember driving through some towns like Union Center, South Dakota. I think the population was like 15.
Jeez.
I'm like, how does this even count?
Yeah.
Like
15.
Just, like
Good
2
God.
houses, a church, and a gas station.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Wow.
And honestly, I have to say with Ed Gein, like there's a part of me that feels really bad for him. Like just being unwell, because even if he had had a non-insane mother, there just wasn't the medical technology. He would have been put in an asylum regardless.
Exactly. That's the point I was going to make. It's like they didn't have the means to treat anything like that back then.
And he could have been someone who could have had a totally normal life if he had been able to get treatment and not, because you combine mental illness with like religious psychosis and sexual repression. Like there's no way that that's turning out well.
No, not at all.
There's no
It's
situation. What's your verdict on Henry?
On Henry, the brother, Ed killed him.
Yeah.
I don't think his mother had really anything to do with that. I think Ed could act on his own with that.
Yeah. Well, and based on them both being out in the fields working, it just makes me think that and again, this is just strictly speculation, that Ed clubs him over the head, knocks him unconscious, he falls down, Ed starts the fire to cover his tracks.
That's exactly what I was thinking. Just burn the body.
Yep.
And the fire
and he
got
didn't
out of
end up
control.
burning the body, but it was asphyxiation. And then thanks to that, I should watch Silence of the Lambs tonight. I feel like that's
I want to check out that. What's that movie called? Deranged, I believe. That one from 74. That's it just vanished. It was right in front of me, but there it is. Deranged, 1974. I'm gonna have to check that one out, and of course, Silence of the Lambs is always a classic.
So good.
And the one to check out is the one with Kane Hodder.
I will watch it just for you.
It's on Tubi, like all great movies.
Like all great movies are on Tubi.
Yeah. And everybody else, that's your homework. I'll know if you've watched it. Go and watch it.
So do that. You can also go watch Champagne and Bullets.
That's the true horror.
That's the true horror. Do not Google Albert Fish. We will do that for you.
Right. And again, if you do, we'll know. Okay. We have connections.
And again, please follow us at Highway to Hell Pod on Instagram. Like, rate, review the show. That helps us so much to be able to show up on discovery lists so other people find the show. Share it with people you know. And we will see you next week for the Cecil Hotel on Highway to Hell.
Dun, dun, dun. Have a good one, guys.